Very good. Are we on? You gone mute now.
I'm just winding you up. I just love doing it. I only do it when we record. It's just so funny.
It's like playing with a 5-year-old child.
It's like getting one of those lasers for a cat and just pointing it at the wall and just.
Are you not even likening me to a human being? You're likening me to a fucking animal. Is this the intro?
This is the intro.
Right. Well, happy New Year, Dan.
Happy New Year. It's it feels like it's been about 6 years already, doesn't it?
I know.
We're on January 7th is our record date for this. The day after some incredible looking human beings rioted at Capitol Hill.
Yeah, Jamiroquai. I think that was my favourite. Jamiroquai's
that's my favourite as well. Yeah.
I think we can't dwell on that too much, and we literally will be here till next Christmas.
The one I saw was worst thing Jamiroquai have done since Cosmic Girl.
Yeah, I like Cosmic Girl. Right, well, let's keep online. So we actually do have a link there because we've got the brilliant Andy Bird on today. Birdie's currently the CCO in New York for Publicis, and he's had an incredible rise to fame from the days when I knew him at BBH, and actually prior to that, Butterfield Day, DeVito Hockney, where he did my first ever posters. So it's going to be fascinating. You're going to love him, mate. He is just a brilliant guy, very funny, winning to his footy and his ads, and he's just a brilliant person.
But he was at BBH when you were at BBH, right?
Yeah, virtually the same time, and I think we had about 7 years there together. And
I'm pretty sure that I met you both at BBH because I was in and out of there around that time. So
I think you probably would have. I mean, Birdie was a huge presence, and Hegarty loved him. He invested in him heavily, and he actually, I think we're going to find out, but I think Hegarty might have been the person to say, Birdie, you should go beyond design and become a creative yourself. So I think it's going to be fascinating to hear. I mean, there's so many campaigns he was behind. I mean, you made a really good point the other day, Dan, about it isn't just the pure authors of the work, it's everyone around it. We've done photographers and strategic thinkers. Now let's talk to a designer who wasn't, like Nils, originally a designer, but now Birdie is, a massive creative director in his own right.
And it's interesting. We had our Christmas lunch after our last podcast record.
Yes, we did. That was lovely.
With the fantastic Jordan Blood, who is now head of design at VCCP.
Yes.
And we talked about stuff over lunch quite a bit with him, that the work that he sees and has to get involved in across the agency, and it's a real interesting department at a creative agency, isn't it? That they see so much work and they're involved in so many different things, and actually you have to be a creative thinker in order to get through all that stuff.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, I personally in my career have relied on people like Birdie, Chris Chapman, Scott Sylvie, Roger Kennedy. I was never shy of going into people with just an idea. Whereas we'll touch on this on the pod, but other creatives are very clear on their art direction, look and feel, like people like Tiger Savage. So it's going to be interesting talking to Andy. How he approached all those people coming to him with their ideas, and then obviously hear about. Go on, sorry.
Is that just a pure laziness thing on your behalf, or is it
Well, no, both laziness and thickness. So it's like a double. Thanks, mate.
No, I'm joking. I'm a great believer in letting the experts do the expert work, and I think that's what you're talking about. You have someone who is so good in a department down the road. You don't need to try and replicate their work because they're sitting there for that reason.
Yeah, I think. I mean, if you look at some people's portfolios, or bodies of work, I wouldn't say mine is massively art directional. I think some stuff I have done has been art directional, but Adam and I, and then people I've worked with since, have always liked the big fat idea. Whereas I think some people look at stuff and go, oh yeah, this fantastic art director. The people have a little bit of more of an angle, and I think that was apparent in that department at the time. Some teams were incredibly sharp on their art direction. I remember Tony Davison talking to me all about scrapbooks as well. And I think people were just different, but ultimately everything went through Birdie and Heg. And, it was an incredible time. So I'm looking forward to that. And then just obviously finding out what he's been doing ever since, Ogilvy's and Publicis and yada, yada. It's going to be great.
And I assume he went to New York quite a while ago.
Yeah, he's been there about 5 years, and he and Ben Kay are the two recipients of my middle of the night phone calls. Which
yes, of course.
Once again, thank you, chaps, for that, and apologies. It'll die down as I get older.
Let's dial him in.
Okay, let's go get him. So, Birdie, welcome to Behind the Billboard, mate. Thanks for coming on. Dan and I and Rach, my missus, all of us on this side of the pond are worried about you and Stace and the kids. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Well, we're in New York, so we're we're away from it. But actually, the mood of the country and actually, the agency and people, it's affecting everybody. And yesterday was I guess this will come out later on in the month maybe, but like this is the day after the capsule was stormed. Yeah. So it's a kind of a strange time.
Yeah, it's just so everyone knows who's listening. So we're recording this the day after there was that strange happening in Washington where everyone stormed the building. There were no police, conveniently enough. I mean, I'm not going to question what happened there, but geez, it's pretty frightening.
It wasn't all started by a Geordie, was it?
No. Well, you never know.
It was kind of surreal yesterday because we were, I actually went to the office in the afternoon for a meeting, and I'd been to get with the kids. I had to go to the government buildings to get to the Fed building to get our green card interview. When we were in there, it was happening. And it was just so surreal. And the security to get in that building is so tough.
Yeah,
it mind boggles how they got into the Capitol building. So,
did they start locking down all the government buildings as they were doing that? Then,
as we were leaving the building, security guards were watching it, and we watched it with them. And it's literally next door to the office, one of the offices. So I just legged it across the road and went in the office. Then we started this meeting, me and our CEO, on Teams with other people, and it was we couldn't really concentrate because it was just taking.
Yeah. Well, look, I think obviously we'll do another podcast another time about this this episode this week. But we just wanted to say we've been itching to get you on, but with one thing or another, it's taken us until now. So thanks very much for coming on. I imagine you're going to want to take the piss out of me and Man United and other things, but if we could squeeze in a bit about your amazing career, that'd be good. I mean, I just wanted to say, it's really weird. We were chatting the other day about it. You became the youngest head of art at BBH. Then you co-founded.
I was going to stop you there. I wasn't head of art. I was head of design, but kind of head of art.
Look at that already got a mistake. Yeah. That's why he's a brilliant designer. Yeah,
I think Mark Reddy was the first head of art that John made at BBH. I think I was kind of head of art. But not in name. No.
Okay, so we'll give you became one of the youngest heads of arts possibly designed at BBH. Then you co-founded your own agency along with Bruce and the guys. Then you started running creative departments of your own at Ogilvy and Publicis, and now you're over there in New York smashing it out of the park as the chief creative officer of Publicis. So that's quite a journey, Newcastle to New York. I wonder, was there a master plan, or was it just, like you said the other day, as to how it happened?
No, I think I've just been a very lucky person, to be honest with you. It doesn't kind of make sense, but I think I didn't go to college, so I left school at 16 and worked in a bakery for a bit.
I don't remember you telling me that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then ended up on a YTS, and then that YTS ended up being, I got sent to an ad agency, not knowing what an ad agency was. Right. And I was like 17, 16. And then somebody there, there's a couple of people there who were really, I tried to be a postman for like 2 years because that was a proper job.
That's a proper job, yeah.
That was a proper job. I applied, and there's a guy called Mark Osborne who was a studio designer, a kind of typographer in that place. And I remember he ripped up my application one morning because he said you shouldn't do that. Because I was getting paid it wasn't, I didn't see it as a proper job. I just thought it was a thing to do to.
Was that up in Newcastle?
No, that was in, because I ended up living with my cousin, and this place was a place called First City. And somebody there, and I can't remember how this happened, but I ended up at McCann from there when I was like 18, 19, I think.
And what were you doing at the first job? What was the role?
Photo mechanical transfer operator, which is like the machine where you put the. I don't know, Hugh probably doesn't remember those. Like you had to make the artworks, and you had to like cut it up and put the. I used to work in the darkroom basically.
So basically, you started at McCann's.
Well, no, I started in this tiny little place. And McCann was where I kind of really kind of understood. That's when I kind of thought, well, this is a job that I can do. I think. And it was then I was working in the typography department when it was called typography. I was like the third, and it was basically it's before Apple Macs. I was tracing stuff out and cutting.
But did you always have an eye for the arts when you were younger, before leaving school?
Yeah, I was good at art at school, but I didn't have any qualifications at school, and I didn't. And in them days, it was like you had to have 4 O levels to get into. I remember this. You had to get 4 O levels to get into art college, which I thought was crazy because surely you just had to be good at art. Naively, I thought. I remember applying for art college, didn't get any because I didn't have any qualifications, but I always loved art, so it was always a thing I loved doing. I loved drawing and stuff. So that was
and then that obviously kind of led to your love of craft as well, right? Because you then started picking up on the mechanical. Yeah, I
left that, and I met people. McCann, I was like, again, I was barely 20, I think. There was people like Derek Haas. I don't know if you know who. Legendary Derek Haas. Yeah. And I was like doing paint. I was doing like art on the side and stuff, and he kind of really took an interest in that, and it was just I was completely like gobsmacked about just just meeting people who I'd never really met before in that place, and it was a huge agency at the time. I think it still is, and then I did some okay work, and I kind of got when I got to like 21, 22, I think that's when I first went to BB8. I think it was.
But when we need to just talk briefly about your short period at Butterfield Day, where you did some incredible incredible posters there, Andy. Would you like to flag those very famous Harley Davidson ads?
In between McCann and BBH, I went to Butterfield Day, which actually at the time they hired me as their first ever kind of designer typographer, and there was. Paul Shearer had just left, I think, and who else was there? Dave Fleetwood, Vicky Maguire was there. You were there, weren't you?
No, Scalzi was there. No, I was working. I was working in a shitty little financial agency. God, please, no one remember this. And Scalzi was there, and Scalzi and I had agreed to put a book together. God, this could feel fucking. I know you've taken a piss at me for years about this, but we did write this Harley Davidson ads, and he kept saying, because there's this guy called Birdie. He can do a really good job, honestly. And when I saw it, I was like, fuck, I've never seen tight, distressed, big, fucking. I was it's great.
I remember cutting that out of a book and sticking it together because I was doing stuff that was just a bit, as I think we'll get to it in a minute. I think when you interviewed Rosie for this, she said I was always trying too hard to make things look good. And on that stuff, I remember. I think Scalzi gave it to me, and didn't it win awards? I can't remember. It was such a long time ago.
We got in the book, and it won campaign posters.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it was a great time. And actually, you sent it to me recently, and I haven't seen it for since probably then. Yeah. And I do realise I think the tagline's too big. And
that's me too.
So was that your first billboard / poster? Was that the first?
No, I've done loads.
No.
I've been involved. Nothing of any. Well, no. Obviously, I did a lot of work at McCann. It was kind of for Coca-Cola, and I think we did. I can't believe it's not butter. And there was a great typographer at McCann called Rob Wallace. I think he works at Adam, and he's still. He really helped me understand just layout, spacing, and this is the time in the early 90s when kind of design went a bit nuts, and there was a lot of people like David Carson and making express type and just really interesting kind of magazine and editorial, and Fabian Baron, all this stuff was happening then, And I was always trying to bring it into advertising, and like, and as you realise, like, you know, the first rule of advertising is to be clear and cohesive with your message, and sometimes that's
you got to be able to read it. You got to be able to read it.
So it was a really interesting time for typography in the early 90s, and this is when designers weren't really in advertising. They weren't called designers; they were called typos, as you probably remember. I think it wasn't until probably the mid 90s when John. He called me a designer all of a sudden, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a designer now, am I?"
Tell us, actually, Birdie. Sorry to jump in there because I'm a bit of a timeline freak. Tell us then. So, how did you get your job at BBH? Did you meet John in person?
No, yes, yeah. Well, it was Matt Kemsley was the head of typography at the time.
Kemsley. Hello, Matt. I know he listens to this.
Yeah. I met, and I can't again. I'll be fibbing if I said I knew how I got to meet Matt. I went to see Matt, and then he said, "I like your work. I'll call you. We'll get in touch." And then he did. And then and I had to go and see John, and it was in Great Pontley Street. Did you work in BBH?
Yeah, but the department wasn't big enough, so we had to work outside Dispatch, much to Scalzi's permanent anger that we were being outsourced.
Yeah, I went to see John and showed him my work, and he kind of like, you know, he said it was okay, and it was kind of quite intense, you know, it was very kind of. And I remember this. He offered me half the money I was earning, and I remember saying to one of my cousins, I said, "Oh, I've been offered a new job." And he went, "Oh," he goes, "It's half the money." He went, "What?" And I went, "Well," and I asked some other people, like, actually, I said, "What should I do?" And they said, "Well, you'd be mad not to do it." So I joined BBH when I was like, I was again 23 or something.
And did you? Because I think me and Ads. Either there before, very close time, we were both ended up there together. And I don't know about you, but I mean, I've been really honest here. When I got there, I sort of really shit myself because there were so many brilliant people like Nick and John, you know, Bruce and Graham, Steve and Vic, Simon and John. I mean, I just sat there going, what am I doing here? And then I think, well, you got a job, you know.
I mean, naively, I wasn't really into, I got there, I remember you mentioned, Nick and John. I remember I was sitting in. I think it was my first couple of days. I was sitting in that room in the old building, the third floor, spinning around my chair. Nobody else is in the room. And John Gorst came in. Who I didn't know it was John Gorst at the time. And he went, "You're the new fella, right?" And I went, he went, "It goes, it's rubbish here. It's terrible." And I went, "What? I thought it was going to be the best." And he goes, "No, mate, you." And he was just crap. I went, "Oh," and he goes, "Oh," and they just made drugstore thing. Yeah, it was coming out. I was like, "Oh, that's
yeah."
I mean,
I had the same experience where you had to work out. Gorsey was a bit of a misery, and Nick was always really upbeat, and I was the same. He kept saying something like, "Oh, thank God you've come along. You know, this is really boring here, and you did that earlier, didn't you?" Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Who's this guy?" And then we had no idea, you know. But they went, "Oh my God, they just did that Levi's ads. We had all the multiple shots of washing machines. Do you remember? All stacked, and we were like, "Oh my God, they did that." And then they did drugstore, they did Polaroid. It was like they were geniuses.
On fire. Yeah, that one year. That was the year I joined. I think that was the year that everything came from. Well, there was loads of work coming from everybody, but that was there.
It was a golden period, and I mean, I felt slightly what's the word? Imposter syndrome. I did feel very weird. I'm not sure about Adam. I probably never verbalised this, but I felt until we'd done a good bit of work. I think it took us about 3 years to win an award. We were quite slow, but when we did the Gale Port thing, but that wasn't deemed very cool.
But the pair of you have both said the same thing, really. I think, you know, that you Andy, you talked about luck, and I know you're a big believer in it, and, you know, being in the right place at the right time has been kind of a cornerstone of your career, as you've said it. But I think that, it takes a lot to be in the right place at the right time, but you have to have something about you to talk yourself into the role, or to decide to take a 50% pay cut in order to take that role. Yeah. And the people that have offered you jobs over the years have seen something in you that they want a piece of that. They want to see your talent, and they go, I want to take that into our agency and help us take us forward.
I think when I joined BB, especially another thing I want to say is like typography departments and design departments then, we were stuck at the back of the creative department. It was almost a dirty word. It was almost like it was a secret sauce of the agencies, not just BBH, everywhere. It was like to have a good, designer or typo made the work look was essential for an agency then. And I guess also the thing about BBH and other great agencies is it's not just the creatives who make the place great. It's I always, because I came from that background, I always think that it's the people around the work, like the traffic, the producers. They're the ones that make it magic. It's not just the creatives. And I think what struck me when I got to BBH, and it wasn't until I left that I realized what it really was that it had this like everybody was facing the same way. Everybody was, you could speak to Nigel.
And do you think that was the culture of the agency? That was something that came from the top, and it was everywhere.
Well, it was a creative culture anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was like, if John Peppier walked round, he'd know everything about everyone. He'd have a vested interest in your work. Oh, you might get that one through, blah, blah. He was just really, he was like head of project management, but he knew everything, and he was behind everything, just like Heg was, just like your PAs, everyone. Like you said, Birdie, it was... it's a great expression, that all facing the right way. I mean,
before we get into the work at BBH, because I know we're about to get into it. I think I do have one question just on kind of the recent stuff. Obviously, you're on another continent and in another major city than we are. But what have you seen recently around New York that's made you stop Billboard wise? That's gone, actually, that's great work.
Well, I tell you what, I'm still there's one particular billboard on Houston Street in New York, and anybody who knows that area, there's one enormous billboard that, and it's a bit of a cop out, but Calvin Klein own it, and it's like a fashion billboard, and it's just the sheer scale. And every time I walk past that billboard, there's something interesting on there. It's like it's not one particular campaign. It's just they use it so amazingly.
Is it where DK and I was? Not that one.
No.
Okay.
It's on a main kind of road, but it's a bit of a cop. There's not. I mean, outdoor. I was actually thinking it's in the U. I actually judged the US Outdoor Awards 2 years ago as the president of it, and it's coming back. I think as a medium, but I don't think it's used in the same way as it used to be. I think there's a much more room for. There's a huge. It's less about craft. It's just more about simple messaging here, which is fine. But I think it's a. I know everybody says this. If you can get your idea onto a billboard and makes it make sense and coherent, and that's the hardest. It's the hardest thing, and I think the art of that is still. I'm not waffling here, but it's something that's been a little bit lost.
The billboard you're talking about in New York, it's quite it's a perm. They call them perms in the US. It's quite a US thing. There are a few sites in the UK that are kind of permanently for certain clients. But it's a big thing in the US where a brand really believes in a site or in outdoor, and in order to save money throughout the year, they take it on a permanent basis. You see, Netflix have got one in Times Square that they own, and they will update content all the way through the year.
Every week, Birdie, Dan says something new, and I just sit there going, I thought a perm was what I had when I was 18. With all them like ringlets making me look like Michael Hutchins out of NXS.
Back when you had hair.
I mean, the other day I learned programmatic. That was amazing. Which is,
you learned programmatic.
I don't know what that is.
It's a total education. Well, I do. I didn't have one of them long words for it. I posted that reacts to the environment and blah, 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 and Dan goes, I think you'll mean that's programmatic in a slightly smooth but condescending manner. But, okay, well, look, I think we're in the BBH world. We wanted to sort of start on the... and by the way, we're going to, dip in and out of campaigns, which are obviously the first set of you a designer, typographer, etc. But we're interested in your role behind each campaign, whether it was very minimal or very large. So again, just shout us down and say move on if we're talking rubbish.
It's a good one actually, isn't it? Because we've had recently photographers on, so their role in billboard creation, and last week we had Sophie, who is a kind of the strategy director at the media agency, around kind of trying to find the right locations. And now we've got you. You're covering about 6 or 7 bases for us in the role of a billboard.
Plus American correspondent. I know we've got Nils.
Yeah, 6 parts.
Yeah, we've got Nils coming up as well. So I don't know Nils. I'm very much looking forward to speaking to him, but it feels like a similar path. But but we wanted to talk about. Go on.
Guys, I think me and Nils have obviously swapped notes on our, because he had the same role as me when he was younger as well. So. Mine was a bit different. I think he became a creative director when he was in the same. I think he was at Grey, wasn't he, or albeit?
Yes.
And he became a creative director there. Was I got made an art director at BBH and then left, and it was a weird. Mine wasn't a smooth.
No. But so before you did that, the Levi's Shrinking Man campaign. What? I'm just interested. What was your role on that? And then how involved did you get with Heg? Was it? I imagine it must have been a little bit awkward because you're in between Rosie and Heg. Was that awkward or was that fine?
Well, I heard Rosie's podcast on here, and she mentioned that campaign because it was an incredible idea, and again, what BBH did really well and better than most was just distilling an idea into a simple visual, and visual culture was, as you remember, that was the the mantra that went through that place. And John was always, you remember the layout of the office. I sat to the right of him and saw everything. He was he was in the room. He was a real head of art. He was like that. But that campaign, I remember Rosie bringing that idea in, and it was Will Audrey worked with Rosie as well at the time.
Good Will.
And it was just a really simple idea, and I tried tons of different variations of shrinking type. So something over the top, and again, this is a really interesting thing. It was at the start of Apple Macs and stuff, and I was always cutting real type and making things, kind of organically. That we did. It was the first year or two of Macs. We all just stared at them and just prodded them. and I remember Steve Russell who I worked with, and Dom in that room, who he was just a wizard. And we that was the simplest version of typography on that layout that we did, where it's just the type shrinking down. The typeface was thin, remember? And I remember thinking it was the most boring version. But
how long did it take to get to that? Because I don't
Well, like most things in name days, you remember that room? There was we always did 60 versions of the same of one thing to get back to the thing we should have done in the first place.
Yeah, well, no, but that's Trotty's.
And the photography was just, I think Nadab shot that. It was just, there's I remember Rosie, again, it was pre kind of high end retouching, and I know there was a lot of difficulty around that. But what's fascinating about that is that won best use of typography for the year. Right? I just remember laughing at it because it's so simple, it's so perfected. Again, looking back on it, you should always try the simple thing first. I remember when it won the awards, Rosie made me go on stage for it, which is just lovely. I remember that.
Okay.
But it was a time of experimentation in everything we were doing. And that, again, I think you mentioned it earlier, that creative department at the time. I think I learned so much off all of those people in that agency, because it was almost like it was like Stella Street. It was crazy. Everybody was so hammered.
Yeah, and the reason it won was probably because it was the simplest.
Because it was, and again, I remember John used to say to us that never let the art direction or design get in the way of an idea, right? And I used to do that a lot. But it was but it's something that really resonated with me now, and it's something that I always remember. Never over embellish something. And if you remember all that work, from people, it was a stylish. Everything was ooze style. Everything.
Did you? Because I remember very fondly that time. Walking down the corridor and getting past Head, going into you, and me and Scholesy sort of praying, saying, "Oh, I just hope Birdie's going to make this good because we're giving him his shit." We'll come back to that in a minute. But just sticking on this for a minute, it felt well. I was thinking about this last night and today about the Levi's, or just quite a lot of the work. And Heg, after a while, it sounded like he just gave you more and more, and you seemed to become. Did he always want you to do Levi's? Because that was his baby, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but we did everything, didn't we? Remember, there was only me really and Sid, who was like a crossover between the studio and then Dom.
Okay.
So we used to have like I mean, it's kind of funny now looking back on it. We had like a desk with just the work on it, and every other brief was a winner, right? It was just an amazing time. And there was like usually 3 or 4 Levi's campaigns a year, wasn't there? And I think that year, 95, 96, there was like D&AD, I think we just cleaned up. But it felt like it was like candy. For me, it was all about kind of doing the simplest thing. And the Levi's work was the...
But you, like you said, you mentioned Dominic Grant, Sid, Russell, yourself. Yeah. Obviously there was Jeff... before you, Jeff Cousins and Matt Kemsley.
That was a weird thing because I was on my own. I was hired as the number 3 after Sid. No, after Sid wasn't there. After Matt and then Brain, and they left and left me on my own. Graham Watson was like, "Well, he's too young to be in jobs."
But I think what struck me was it. What I liked about what you've just said is you had your own little department there going on, and everyone put their stuff on the table. Right, who's got the best Levi's? Yeah, so it's like you had a mini design. Remember we'd have an open brief on Levi's, which is always, if you got officially briefed on Levi's, it was the kiss of death because you were officially meant to crack it. And then at the last minute, Roger and Andy or Sorby and Chappie just floating with some absolute killer script, and you'd be like, shit.
Well, Tony and Kim again, they were prolific as well, and also spent a lot of time in that room with me. We were like constantly experimenting with stuff on Levi's and all the other kind of amazing work. Actually, there was one of my favorite billboards was something we never made for UBS when me and Tony made this typeface out of wood set. Out of numbers, but set in wood.
Oh, I remember that.
Remember that? Yeah, I've still got it in my book. Well, I've got like a print book somewhere. It's
can we put it on the Instagram, please, when you get a minute? Or not?
Yeah, I'll find it. Anyway, that was, Tony was, as you know, was just, super into like craft and art. And he, again, we just made so many interesting kind of pieces in that period.
And you were given that latitude to do that as well, right? So because it was an open brief, there was always open briefs, but there was always it was kind of like, it was just a very creative place. Like we just tried so many things, and a lot of it didn't come off.
One thing, I wanted to quickly ask while we're in this area was, joking aside, me and Adam would have a big idea. We would walk down there and go, I wonder what Birdie will make of this. And, we were quite often open and going, look, he doesn't know, I don't know. Whereas like you had your craftsmen and women like Tiger Savage, Russell, Tony. And did you prefer working with people like us because you had more freedom? So on Selfridges, okay, we had a line, it's worth living London Selfridges, and you made this incredible type. Or did you prefer people who come in with stuff quite finished? Did you have a point of view on that?
No. That's a really good question. And that was like, I remember Adam used to say to me, make it modern.
Contemporary.
It's not a brief. But no, there was, I think, Tiger was obviously had a Tiger and Rover. They all had a fair idea. And there was a lot of, the reference books, remember the books in the back of that room? Piled up. Again, before the internet. So we used to have to scan stuff and endlessly chopping stuff up. There was you'd get like a rough brief. Tiger would always bring like 6 or 7 reference points down into the room. Not always would they wouldn't always be the thing that ended up happening, but cutting the 60s, I remember the second campaign, I painted this whole, I painted the type on canvas
Right.
Like 5 foot wide at home.
Damien Hirst. It's an early Damien Hirst.
And then we scan it, like then we had to photograph it, scan it down, and I think instead of getting her on here, she remember.
Yeah, she's coming on.
Scanned it down. Yeah. Again, Tiger was just fantastic art director.
She was meant to come on and then it got cancelled, but we've had some chats with her already online, and very much looking forward to hearing from her. And Russ and people like that, you know. I mean, for me and Adam, it was our first job. And joking aside, I learned so much just watching people. And I remember going to see Tony Davidson, and I said he had this big green book, and I said, "What's that?" And he said, "It's a scrapbook." And he said, "Have you not got a scrapbook?" And I went, "Oh, no, I haven't." And I ran away, and I bought it's called Corneliuson. And I bought them and I started filling them up. And actually, to be fair, ever since that day, I still do them when I get a chance. I do a digital one now because I'm I'm modern, you know what I mean? But,
whoa.
There was a Tillys campaign at Russell we did for, I think that one was an outdoor campaign. And he wanted it to look like it was a convict scroll on a wall. And then we made, again, I can't imagine us doing this anymore. Like, we made 7 foot concrete blocks.
I remember this, chipped out of concrete.
And then we got screwdrivers and scratched the thing out, then photographed them. And I remember, again, like not thinking about this. I mean, these are the things nobody talks about. It's like it was because it was one block of concrete. I had to fit different sizes of magazines.
Can you do a portrait and landscape?
Yeah, we did 4 of them, and I wonder where they are now. I mean, that was the kind of stuff we did. Tiger, again, we used to like. There was a Links campaign. We did one of the first print campaigns, which was, again, I think it was, we made it. There was a Japanese illustrator, I can't remember the name,
right,
who did photorealism, and then she wanted it on them like school paper, right? And we made these prints out of like these like stamps, huge stamps that type into the paper. Anyway,
right,
it was just a really innovative time for like just
I just love that the tinkering and experimental stuff though. That's kind of you must have if Hugh's scrapbook is full, yours must be kind of bulging at the
I think what's interesting, Nick, in them days, what would happen now? You'd go to an animator, you go to an illustrator.
Yeah.
Them days it was far more like we'll just do it ourselves. And
well, I mean that's why in a way we went to you guys because I think it was quite siloed, wasn't it? Yeah, we didn't have Google Slides or stuff like that to do. We were going literally. Here's a headline or some scraps. I mean, the scrapbook thing actually really helped me because it just became a great bit of advice from Tony and Kim, and after a while you kind of start to build up your own. It's like your own library, which is different from anyone else. I remember Hegarty saying once. Don't look on the internet is amazing, but said don't look on the internet. That's where everyone else is looking. Look on your own. Like the conversations you've had on a bus, all that kind of stuff is priceless. So your own. I remember a bit one day at JWT. Actually, just a quick aside. I remember someone doing the same thing. They said, "Oh, what's that big green book?" And I said, "Oh, it's my scrapbook." And this creative said, "Oh, can I have a look at it?" I said, "No." Get your own. Bit uncharitable. But I think another campaign we should talk about because we're still deep in BBH territory, but one we mustn't go past is Boddington's. I know it wasn't strict outdoor, but we have featured it because it's what was it, Birdie? It's indoor outdoor. Is that what you said?
Well, I use this terminology because it was back pages of magazines.
Yeah.
So they called it indoor outdoor.
Right.
That was the media terminology for it because it was. I remember Bruce, being a passionate kind of believer in what that was because it was out. I mean, it had been running for a while before I got there. I think it was Mike Wells.
Tiff Hunter who shot.
Yeah, but we changed the layouts changed near the end. We got rid of I can't believe we've been so granular about this, but we changed the typography in the last couple of years. It was it was just an amazing, again, that campaign just ran and ran.
I mean, you look at it now, we put it on, spoke to Tom Hudson about it, and then we put it up on Instagram. We had to add 2 posts because there were so many. I mean, there were 20 just brilliant. There could have been more, and it's had the most likes. I think it's just because it's so graphic. It's such a great line. The execution is unbelievably good. It's sort of like it's one of the greatest campaigns, I think, print campaigns ever. Must be.
Yeah, definitely.
Should we talk?
Which one's your favourite then? Which one's your favourite of those?
I always like with the dart. So it changed a bit in the end, didn't it? Remember the dartboard one with the double top with the. It became less about the paint in the last kind of couple of years.
I particularly like the red ones, the Man United ones. I thought those were strong. The double. Did you have a favourite Levi's, Birdie? Sorry, just jumping around.
I think the Ed Morris to Stay Press campaign.
Yeah, I'm pleased you said that. I hadn't brought that up yet because he mentioned that about the Birdie.
I showed somebody that yesterday because I told somebody here that I was doing this today, and I actually showed that image of the skinhead girl with it.
Yeah,
and just brilliant, a brilliant visual. I mean, I wouldn't say a pun. It was just a smart.
Oh, that's amazing. Did you? I think Ed or Jim. I can't remember.
You know what? I think I'm doing a disservice to everything, all the other campagins. Because
but you have to.
The twisted one was Twisted's fantastic.
Twisted was that was my first. If you remember, John, when I became an art director and became again, it's a weird thing because designer it's different now. Designers now in agencies are really almost more adhered than they are than the old, like you say, traditional creative team. Back in them days, it was like you weren't seen as the same level as the creative team. And I think I've spoken to Nils about this, but when John, it was like 98 and 99, when John decided I should leave the design department and become an art director with Nick Gill, and that was the Levi's. That Levi's campaign was the first TV that we did.
I remember.
And then Twisted came after it, but I still did that.
Did you do the design even though you were?
Yeah, I still did that, and it was Zombie.
Yes, Zombie Chappie.
Chappie. Yeah.
Plus, it's
I drew that.
So they sort of said,
Twisted.
Be a creative, but actually, can you still be the designer guy? So, like, can you just do two things?
Yeah, I was like, I remember John said, I want you to work with Nick, and I was like, I remember going, I can't do TV. That was petrified me. I was like, I can't do this, which is weird because obviously that was 22 years ago. Like,
that's amazing.
That changed my career. But again, going back to look and just.
Yeah, I know what. If you look about that moment now, and I remember you've said, and I would as well. It's a big thing now, but if you look back on it now, you're like chief creative officer of Publicis in North America. You kind of go, well, maybe that was the moment, that.
I think Nick didn't have an art director, and I think I was cheaper than hiring somebody. So I think.
Is this what? So is it? You're going to put this down to luck again, are you?
Yeah. I know. I mean, Nick was a one-man band again.
Nick was a bit of a. But
he didn't really need us. But we went around the world and shot this TV campaign, which you'll probably wince when I'm talking about now. It got canned. Remember that? It was for.
I don't ever saw it. I remember feeling all of your pain because I maybe kept saying, "I'm doing this thing" and blah blah blah. And then there's so much going on at BBH. You kind of go, "All right, yeah," and we chat about it in the pub. And then I think me and Scalzi might have been leaving, or we weren't. Yeah, but I remember thinking, "God, yeah, that's because Nick had been put in charge of Levi's, hadn't he?"
Yeah, and it was a big deal because it was a launch of the engineered denim, and we had done this campaign and we shot it around the world, and it was free to move was the line, which I think
that's right.
Yeah, and we came back to the UK and we had it in the can. Client loved it, and then they canned it.
Yeah, I remember.
And they didn't run it, and it was huge for me. It was like, well, I took it personally. The first
was that your first TV? That
it was the first TV.
Gutted.
I was gutted, yeah. And then I remember then, but actually, in the end, the Twisted Frank Budgeon's spot was what they had to make a spot to replace it. And I'm just trying to remember this. I think that was that spot, which I think Tony did that.
Yeah, McTeer. I remember. I talked to John O'Keefe about, like getting the rug pulled away from you. I remember we did an FHM spot and Frank was going to shoot it, Frank Budgeon, and the day before it got canned. We literally thought it was someone taking the piss. Remember it was... Anyway, so we couldn't believe it. We were gobsmacked. And then I was sort of moaning to O'Keefe about it, and he said, you've never made your ad until... Well, first of all, he said, until you're on the plane. And he's like, no, you could be on the plane, come out, and still not there. He said, unless you see it on the TV that night. And I kept thinking, what's he talking about? And actually, it's true, isn't it? You can finish an entire campaign, and it still might not run.
Russell's saying to me, cheer on the set, cry in the edit.
Yeah,
that was his. That was his. I was probably devastated by that. But I remember I still had to do the. I remember like the Cannes TV. It ran in Australia, I think, and got an award. I mean, it was
right. There you go.
It had nothing to do with. It was just I don't want to go in there, but they didn't run it anyway. They did the Twisted spot, Tony. I still had to do the design on it.
Oh God, that's a kick in the nuts. Yeah, cheers.
So but I think Claudia Verity did that kissing. I think I just left him. That was good. That was great.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, we talked with Rankin about that. Rankin was on. Yeah. And we'll talk about him again in a bit, about Dove. But I just wanted to finish on BBH. So, it was obviously a brilliant observation of Egerty's to make you become a proper art director and creative. How soon after that did you leave? Because it must have been a bit of a wretch. Do you think leaving like a
I left, I think about a year after that. And, well, maybe even less actually. And it was, I've been talking to Bruce Crouch about, he just said, do you fancy doing our own thing? And, again, I just said, why not? Why don't we try? Yeah. And I was, again, probably too young to, I think I was 29 then. And 30. And I was like, all right. And it was just it was one of those things I said yes to it, and then we did it, and it was done. I felt bad because, I love BBH. BBH is still almost like my football team that I support. To leave there, and especially to leave John and all those guys, and it was just Anyway, it was about 1999 when I left. I think you'd left before me, hadn't you?
Yeah, I think we'd left a bit earlier. We'd gone to Saatchi's for Droga, but it was. It's only like after it you just realise what an amazing time it was. And I mean, last night and this morning when I was just going through your work and how much I knew about the work. Luckily enough, one or two of the campaigns were ours, but it was just like you said, it was a purple patch, a long one, and I think we all knew it. There were some amazing times. Yeah. So let's.
There was Ligas. The rivals in them days, it was Ligas Delaney was the one.
I think Abbott Mead are always on the radar, weren't they?
Abbott Mead, but I think for print and outdoor, I think it was BBH was really like the in the 90s.
But we've not even talked about campaigns like there was the Countryside movement. We've not talked about Audi. There's a lot of links. There was so much that I think.
We've missed loads out. I mean, it was just a huge.
But I think body of work. Without being stating the obvious, this pod is about billboards, so we could, Okay. So I think that, but we've done a good job. But I think the one we wanted to go on to next, Andy, was when you established Soul with Bruce and Seamus and. Duncan, thank you.
And Kev Brown.
Kev. And you did the One London poster. Now, I just remember it thinking, that's a good poster, that. I like that. And then I read somewhere it was something to do with the London tube bombings. I kind of completely forgot. What happened?
Yeah. Well, we had the GLC as one of our family clients at Soul. And unfortunately, there was the terror, I think it was just after 9/11. There was the tube bombings, and they asked us to do a campaign to kind of calm, basically to rally London.
Right,
and actually it was a typographic kind of idea. Actually, it was made a one out of the L in London. And it was such a simple thing. It was all the way down. It was all over. Obviously all over the subway. Subway. There you go. Been here too long.
Yeah.
And all down Regent Street, and it was really a kind of very iconic kind of visual. That again, just a very actually BBH training. It's just very simple kind of digital idea. And, I got to meet Ken Livingstone because of that, because he invited me to his office.
Oh, wow. Really? Is that quite interesting?
Yeah, it was. But yeah, we did a lot of work for the GLC, actually, which is really interesting. Bruce had a great relationship with the clients, and we did some great stuff.
And when you were at Soul, did Soul become, and sorry, excuse my ignorance here, I'm normally pride myself on my ad geekness, but Soul then became Nitro. No, you went to Nitro. Sorry, tell me.
No, it did.
Right.
Nitro was again, this is Nitro was an Australian agency that kind of bought us out, and then it became Sapient Nitro. So it was a kind of weirdly, and then Publicis bought Sapient Nitro. So I've gone full circle. That was a and I stayed for a couple of years when it was Nitro, just Nitro, and then I worked with Paul Shearer because we got Paul in, and that was the third time in my career I'd worked with Paul.
Yeah, he's doing brilliant now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's doing great. He's in Dubai. So there was we did some Nike work. We had the Nike soccer. Sorry, there you go. Said it again. Well, I just said soccer. Football. We did Nike football. Some.
If any of your mates from home are listening to this,
you know what I mean. That's the thing.
Wardy,
I have to say soccer here.
If Wardy heard that, he'd fucking have you.
I know. We did some really nice TV for Nike for them 2 years. It was really. It's not a billboard, so we can't talk about it. But that
but it's just like I mean, you've got so much work. So we have to be quite strict.
Yeah. So moving on from Nitro, I mean, we haven't got a list of much outdoor from there, but from there you went to Ogilvy, and that's where you really kind of that was ECD role, right?
No, it was kind of I was CD. I was head of art. And they hired me to help run with Will. Because Dennis Lewis was doing Dove. And Dennis, again, had worked from obviously Dennis and BBH. He retired, maybe the second time he retired. I think he retired again after that.
Yeah.
Nick was running Dove and did all that amazing work with ranking. And then they got me in to help Will kind of run Dove and Ogilvy. But they also made me head of art there as well. So I was in charge of pretty much most of the work. Just went out the office. And it was, so we did. Dove is a really interesting time for Dove because it was they just come off the back of the Tick Box campaign,
right?
Which I think you must have been to ranking.
Yes, about. The ranking stuff, yeah. And then we went. We had a tour. We had a kind of difficult year or two, just doing what they kind of shelved. The campaign for Real Beauty when we were there, so we had to. But we did some really nice. I mean, we did shampoo actually. It was kind of alternative billboards. But then I was also working with Sue Higgs there. Yeah. And we did which I'm still really proud of, was the American Express campaign.
Oh the Amex stuff. Fantastic. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was really, it was again going back to influences. That was Paul Rand, who's a 50s American designer, kind of took that, and I illustrated that work as well as.
Did you?
At the time, that was a huge shift for Amex, and
it was
in the design landscape.
I actually think it's still running even now.
I think it is as well.
But Sue's such an amazing, creative, and it was like we did this as an interest. So we did the roofs. And it was Dennis was actually came back, and he was working me on that, and we presented it to the client in New York, and they were using Annie Leibovitz to shoot everything for Amex globally,
right?
And this was illustration, so it was like the client said, "Well, who did this stuff?" And they went, "Well, it's just somebody in the office, And he said, "Well, we just can't. We need to get somebody who's give me the Anna Leibovitz of illustration."
That's
so we got Para. Do you know Para that is just like illustrator? We got him to do them, and we took him back to New York, and they went, "No, can we have that original stuff?" And I said, "Well, I did." I ended up being the illustrator of this campaign as well as.
That's good. I think you're the only.
Was it a hard sell to the client in New York? They're used to photographic style and.
Well, I think that campaign run everywhere outside of the US.
Right.
Did
you get paid as an illustrator? That's a
good point. That's a really interesting question because I thought I should have got paid for that.
Yeah,
but I didn't. But then when I left Ogilvy, they had a problem because I ended up illustrating other people's work.
That's so funny. Oh my God. Yeah.
So and then when I left, and I think when I was home a few years back, I saw some on the sub. So I said again, Tube, and I looked up and went, "Oh God, they're not doing that. This smells good."
They've messed that up. I'm going to have to get my pen out. That's amazing. Yeah. I didn't know any of that. I mean, the only the equivalent story, not quite, is we had Martha Riley on in the first series, and I never knew, but the brilliant British Airways plane she did to New York, and it was the whole plane's graffitied, and she did the whole thing, and I was like, wow, because she's
crazy. She photoshopped the whole lot.
Amazing.
What? I didn't know that.
No, and I had no idea. I mean, I remember your American Express stuff, thinking, God, it's great and it's massive and it's everywhere, and I really love that colourful. The colour out of the black. It's a bit. It's just kind of cool. It's just sort of late 50s, 60s. It's cool, and I had no idea, Birdie, you did that. That's great. That's brilliant. Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, look. I'll tell you what we're going to do now, Dan. Are we going to wrap it up now and make this the end of part one?
This is end of part one. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Because otherwise we're going to end up with a 3-hour show and people switching off to go and make their tea. No, that's good. I mean, as I said, we've got you covering so many bases in terms of the work and your roles within the work and the billboards that I think. After Ogilvy is a natural stop because we want to get onto the recent stuff, and that will cover in the next part we'll cover Publicis London and New York.
And also we can just extend your coverage of like a live roving reporter in America of what really is actually going on. But I just want to say thanks for coming on to do part one. I didn't actually realise we can cut you in half, but why
I've actually overrun, have I? I'm sorry.
No. I mean, we're going to have basically double birdie bubble. We're going to have half a birdie and then another birdie.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Stay safe, guys.
Cheers. That was great. I'm really pleased we've not cut it short, but rounded it up as to a part one, because I think it's rubbish when you rush them, and there was so much there about his beginning and the BB-8 stuff, and I think that's a really good shout to kind of do a oneer and do a halfer and do another half.
But I think we've still got so much to come, and that's the most important thing. Look at some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about next week. The diesel stuff, I love, absolutely love it.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to talking about that.
I watched the diesel stuff and I thought I knew it, and I think I'd put it up as a contender one year for Cannes, and I kind of clocked the idea. I was that's a great idea. And then I watched it a couple of times, and those guys, their performance is off the scale. The guys who post it, they're obviously actors, but I really want to find out from Birdie about them, and did they feed them the lines, stuff like that. It just makes it's a very, very good outdoor idea, but their performance, I think, elevated it to something really unbelievably charming and fun.
I must also ask him about any other kind of diesel. I wouldn't say copycat, but they have done a few kind of outdoory stunts around the world that have been it wasn't a carbon copy of that, but I know one of my jury members, Davide. He's a Publicis in Italy, and he worked on some stuff for diesel in Germany.
Yeah,
where they did where they did this amazing collab on with a local kebab van, and it was really good out of home stuff. Really tongue in cheek, kind of just stunt based, almost outdoor experiences.
They're a brilliant client, aren't they? I mean, just going back to their print stuff. Before a lot of the outdoor stunts they did, just fantastic, for successful living. I remember we used to look at that actually during BB-8's days and go, we've got to do stuff more like this. But also we're going to touch upon God, I think at least 3 campaigns for DePaul, the charity for homelessness, and I think there's incredible work there. The one where
they did the Corners thing, didn't they?
The Corners was great, but then the thing after that, where they launched their own cardboard company.
The cardboard boxes,
that's right up there. And then there's the Pillion Trust, the Fuck the Poor thing, which is just one of those stunts. It's like, wow. So I think, weirdly, I think we've had a very good, what I feel is a craft session about BBH and his role, but I think this will be quite liberating when we do the second one, because it's Birdie doing all of his, either he's doing the work or he's running it, and I feel like he's kind of is freed up, and it's great, that stuff.
Great.
All right.
Looking forward to it.
See you then, Dan.
I'm going to go and fire up my new coffee machine.
I'm going to have a massive party in my house for loads of people, and I'm not. I'm just going to go downstairs and see the dog. See ya.
See ya.